today with Mel Murphy, who is a divorce coach, and I just wanted to have a chat with her to tell you all about her first of all, but also to mention the fact that we have an event coming up. So we're here to talk about that as well. So Mel, first of all, Mel Murphy, divorce coach. What is that?
Thanks for having me on, Sam. Yeah, so I'm Ireland's only professionally certified divorce coach, and I actually lecture at the Divorce Coaching Academy, which is an academy we set up to actually train divorce coaches because we felt there wasn't enough of them over here at this side of the world in Ireland and the UK. So we have our first cohort of students who are just graduating shortly from that
Brilliant.
course. It's a diploma in divorce coaching. And what is a divorce coach? So it's actually quite well known overseas. It is quite well known in the UK and in America and other places, but kind of new to Ireland. And basically, when people are going through both separation and divorce, because we deal with both separation and divorce, obviously it's a huge change in their life. I mean,
Mm,
it's like everything in their life falls apart. Where they live, maybe where their children are going to go to school, maybe their career, their whole family, maybe their support systems, their friends, everything is falling apart around them. And it's one of the most stressful events in anyone's life, you know? And usually people are really overwhelmed emotionally. There's so much change going on and they can't deal with it. So not only are you moving house, which is supposed to be one of the most stressful periods of your life, but you could be doing everything changing in your life. And there's no real support for that. So, there's the legal system if you're talking to a lawyer, but they want to deal with what we call the business of divorce. They're just trying
yeah.
to get you through the divorce process, but they're not really there to manage all the client's emotions, and they're
Mm,
not they're not trained in that way. And a counselor is excellent to have as well. But what we want to do as a divorce coach is to support the client through the whole divorce process and help them with the next phase in their lives to get their lives back on track. So plan where they're going to go next. So we
yeah.
help people who are thinking, contemplating divorce, like there's huge cracks in their marriage, and we would help to try and salvage those a little bit and support them in that to see what is it that's really making them unhappy. Is it really the marriage? Is it something else? So we try to avoid divorce in the first place. And then if they think they really are going to move forward with it, despite all the help they got in trying to save it, we would plan for it so that it's a little bit doesn't just happen overnight. Usually people wait 3 to 5 years before they really divorce. So it's like planning the financial moves, planning, how to tell the children, how to tell
Mm,
their partner, what to tell family and friends, and how to do it in a way that's not going to cause as much friction, and how to set themselves up so that when it happens, there's not as much change that happens in their lives. They're able to deal with the process all the way through. And then if they're in the middle of divorce, it's being landed on them by their partner, we manage all that to see, well, what can they do in their lives? How can they get their lives together? What can they control? What can they put in place to make it easier on them? And they have that emotional support with their divorce coach. We're kind of like buddy up with them throughout the whole process. And then even after divorce, there's usually it's kind of a bittersweet ending. People can be left financially destitute. So it's kind of
yeah.
talking to them about their finances, their career, getting them back on track, and looking forward towards a more positive life and dealing with parental alienation, all the emotions from any children. We have lots of other issues that come up. What do you do with the family pets? What do you do with granny if she's living at home and you have to sell the house? What do you do with pensions? What do you do with all kinds of stuff like that? So there's so much
Yeah.
that gets brought up.
Gosh, yeah, there's a lot. There is a lot there, and I was divorced twice,
Mhm.
so I've been there, and then there's the other aspect of, maybe it's something that both of the partners want, but it can still be difficult, like especially as you say, children, pets, or whatever,
Yeah.
and I know I've seen lately divorce parties, so I know there
Yes.
are some people that celebrate it, which I think is great as well, to be honest. I mean, but
Yeah.
at the start of the whole process is probably the most difficult because it is such a big life-changing moment.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of a divorce coach until I met you. So for anybody, I know that you have lots of people that need support, and it could even be the family as well, couldn't it? Like, the sister, the brother of the
We
person who's
do.
going through the divorce.
Exactly. So we offer support for family members. We have some what we call gray divorce, maybe older parents who are starting to separate and divorce, and the children come to us to see how can we support our parents through this as well. What do we do
Ah,
ourselves?
that's
And
nice.
then our aim is also parents who are amicable in their divorce. How to build a co-parenting plan together. How to co-parent more effectively with children. So always put the children for all the decisions that are being made, leave
Yeah.
their egos, their anger, their resentment at the door to try and
Yes.
do something more amicable. So even though we're not mediators, we would work with one party or the other to kind of pull that together, and then they can bring that into their mediation if they want to. So we have like a whole 22-step plan on how to build that out. So you have a whole calendar for the whole year of when you're going to see the children, and the children will participate in building that if they want to as well.
That's lovely. Yeah, that's really,
Yeah.
really useful. I know for me, I did feel very well. I suppose I felt like I didn't get as much support from family at the time, but I also felt a little bit alone. And I felt like, are all these feelings like, are these normal
Yeah,
kind
as
of
I
thing?
call it, I'm calling it like I'm doing a divorce summit. It's going to be the first ever divorce summit in Ireland. That's going to be on February 2nd. And that is because it's really such a hush hush topic. People aren't really talking about it.
Yes,
I was
still.
on, yeah, I was on a lot of media over the summer. I was on Ireland AM, I was in The Independent, I was on Today FM and Cork FM and in Image Magazine because it was kind of this new topic that was coming out because there had been like a 30% increase in divorce in Ireland during the pandemic, unfortunately. And it was a
Mm,
huge issue that was kind of just rearing its head. So people are kind of starting to talk about it a little bit more, but it's really still called the hush hush topic. And we need to
yeah,
talk about it because it's happening to so many people now and they need the support. It's a really difficult time in their lives. They can go on for more than 2 years. The courts were overcome with the number of requests, and so there's at least a 1 year waiting time in court.
yeah.
Meanwhile, members are having to stay living in the same household, and it's very hard.
Oh, yeah.
So it's about we have experts coming on to that to talk about all these key topics during divorce.
Yeah, I know with me as well, like, it was like, I wanted to have that amicable thing and I didn't, and I never spoke about him in a negative way in front of
Yeah,
the child and stuff like that. It was hard to do sometimes if you're angry or if something triggers you and you're trying to, do the best you can, like, but
yeah,
also I think, the whole the courts, it's very daunting, isn't it? It's very I know I was
it
terrified
is.
going into the court. I'd never
Yeah,
been in court
so there's three
before.
big things there. Like one of them is how do you manage around the children, especially if the other partner or the ex is being very difficult towards you, and you're
Mm,
trying to allow the child to have a positive relationship with each parent, but the other partner is maybe putting you down in front of the child or whatever. So there's a whole
yeah.
skill set on how to manage that that we help parents with. And if another parent is doing what's called parental alienation, so they're saying lots of negative things
Yeah,
about
it's
one parent with
awful.
the child or trying to prevent the child from seeing the parent, and that happens a lot, and it's not really something in court. There's a few things around in the court process you can manipulate around that or use if that is brought up. But it's very, very difficult to explain. There's a lot of very upset parents around that. So we'll kind of support the client around that. And then also, as you said, a lot of your friendships fall apart. So like maybe different couples you used to hang out with. One couple is on one side, the other is on the
Yes.
other side. So
Yeah.
in order to manage their own relationship, they actually just distance themselves because they don't
Yeah.
want the impact happening on their own relationships. You'll often see friendships falling apart. And it's interesting to see who's really there for you. It could be very different to who you thought. So,
Yeah, and I know that when I remember when I was younger, one of my uncles got divorced, and there was a big about it. You know what I mean? It was a big hullabaloo, like. Whereas I was thinking, but sure. This is as a child, I was thinking, surely though, if they're not happy together, they should be separate. And I always say, like even though I'm divorced twice, like I say, well, I'm either a nightmare to live with, or I don't put up with any crap. So it's it's like I mean, we're both lovely people, but just not together. Together we were a disaster. That
yeah,
kind of
and
way.
that's,
So
that's kind of like Adele's divorce, and you kind of people measure the quality of a marriage based on how long it's been together, and that's not necessarily made to maybe have a different measure of what marriage is or what a good marriage is. And like Adele left, just because it just wasn't working. She wasn't happy in the marriage. And there's a lot of questions that can be raised about that. Well, do you just leave because of that? Is that selfish, etc.? What's about the impact of the children? But that's been something that's kind of raised its head during the pandemic, as I said, because people were having this fight or flight response.
Yeah.
And they were like reassessing their lives and all this stuff they were putting up with beforehand, they no longer wanted to put up with. And that included jobs and different things like that, but it also included relationships where they were like, actually, I'll be much happier to live my life in a different way.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
all
Yeah,
of that being brought up too.
I'm seeing a lot of that actually. So
Mm.
yeah, well, look, this is brilliant. So the divorce, I put your website there, but your event is on Eventbrite. So it's the Divorce in Ireland Summit 2022. What date is that on?
So it's on the 2nd of February. So kind of giving people, because January, unfortunately, is typically a very big divorce month where a lot of couples will look to break up. September, after the summer holidays, when they were hoping that the summer holidays would salvage their marriage, and maybe it didn't live up to expectations. And January, often after Christmas and all the stresses of family, and especially with COVID happening and people being vaccinated or not vaccinated, wanting to see people or not wanting to see people,
Yeah.
it causes even more stress in relationships. And then if there's kind of coercive control or any abuse in relationships, that
Mm,
often comes up in during Christmas period as well.
mm.
It just seems to happen a little bit more around special celebrations. So some people will
Yeah.
decide to make that move afterwards. So that happens as well. So we thought, give people, some people also are looking at New Year, New Them,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
are maybe more open to looking at getting some questions answered. So I'm not saying that everyone wants to go get divorced. It's just about if you had questions about it, or someone who's going through it, or
And
supporting
you want to
someone through
support
it,
them. Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
have some questions. So I have like a family barrister who's going to come on and talk about key topics on family law that tend to come up during with our clients. I have someone who is a male divorce coach, so he's going to talk about, the particular questions that come up with men. A lady I work with is going to talk about menopause and how menopause impacts women's decisions to divorce. It's really interesting. She's got loads of details and research done around that.
Wow.
I have a mental health expert who has divorced himself too and managing that. And he talks about mental health impact when going through divorce and how to manage your own mental health. And then I'm focusing on co parenting effectively, the conscious uncoupling piece, and how to deal both with that or with people who are very difficult to co parent with, and how different
Yeah.
tips on how to manage that. And then we have yourself, Sam, who's going to talk about life after divorce, that you're happily married now, and what life is like as you move forward and where to go
Yeah,
afterwards.
and one thing I did experience was a little bit when I went to the marriage registry, and she was like, "You were divorced twice. You were married twice before." It was kind of like I felt a little bit embarrassed,
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I mean, sometimes there is no bad guy or there is no wagon. Usually it is
yeah.
just two people just are not meant to be together, and they deserve happiness, both of
Yeah,
them.
yeah. I thought that
So
even when we went to a COVID test center and my kids' names were different to mine, and there was a lot of like questions being asked about it. I was just
same,
like, very
same.
interesting. Like, it doesn't matter. I never bothered changing my name in the first place. I just wanted to stay the same person I always
Yes.
was. I wasn't changing. I wasn't changing personality just because I was now married.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So
but
it sounds like a really good event. So
yeah,
definitely, if anyone go to Eventbrite, the Divorce in Ireland Summit 2022. I will put a link to it in the comments after this live stream. So
yeah.
if anyone does want to reach out to Mel as well, she's on Twitter at Divorce Coach IRL, and her website is divorcecoachingireland.com.
And
So
because you're coming on to our chat, Sam, as a special price for all of the Women's Inspire Network, I'm going to give them a €10 discount. So if
brilliant.
you put a
Okay,
promo
we can put
code
that into the group.
VIP,
Yeah. They will put
yeah,
it into the private group because we've gone live to
okay.
Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook. But
Ah,
yes, any members of Women's
yes. So they
Inspire
will have
Network.
a special promo code that we'll
Yeah,
send out to
cool.
them.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's great. Thank you so much for your time. And look, for anyone watching that isn't, that is dreading Christmas and dreading, there is always hope, whether it's mediation or, definitely there are lots of articles on Mel's website if you need some help. You're not alone. There's plenty of us have done it. There's plenty of us thinking about it. There's plenty of us have been there through it. So, you're not on your own, and it's not shameful. It just means that, you know, you aren't meant to be together. That's okay. Sometimes it happens. So I'm not a counselor. I'm just saying that from my own experience. So, Mel, anything you want to add?
No, I was just saying, don't be ashamed to get the help you need if you're going through a separation or divorce. As many people out there can support you, and a divorce coach can just be your buddy along the whole process, along the whole way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lovely. Well done. Okay, thanks, Mel, and have a great weekend.
Thanks so much, Sam.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.